Hey, what's up, everybody? Um, just coming on here to holler at you guys real quick. This is my reintroduction part two. I recently posted a video where I was talking about how I've had multiple people just say that I need to write a book. And it's only after I've talked to them and had some dialogue about my testimony. And so I was just like, I think I can speak to it better. I love writing. Writing is like my niche, but um, they also suggested why don't I do a podcast? It was like people need to hear it. They need to hear your testimony, and I was like, okay, but I mean, it's not about me. It's all to the glory of God, and so that's basically what I said on my first video. This video I wanted to go a little bit deeper. I won't hold you long because there's going to be other times where I'm able to just really dive deeper into um, like my story. To be honest, I really don't even know where to start. And, some may be like, start from the beginning, but I don't know. I think I'm just going to let it flow. Like none of this is scripted. I'm just talking about what I've been through, what I've overcome, how at one point I didn't know that God was with me. At one point I didn't even really know God. And so I just went through a lot of things that most people look at me and be like, there's no way you went through that. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely went through that. So Um, I mean, I guess I could start from the beginning. So I mean, I guess you could look at a lot of people may look at it, and you may look at it as, I was a statistic growing up, right? So even though there was a man in the household, it wasn't my biological father. You know, my mom and my birth dad, you know, they did their thing, right? My dad, my biological father, was a Rolling Stone. He was a woman pleaser, and that's just what he did. And he wasn't very present in my life. And my mom, I found out later on in life that she sheltered me from, my dad's side of the family. Um, I can't really get into like why she did what she did, but from my perspective, my mom, I love my mom, and I want to give this disclosure before I actually jump into like really talking about, the people who live in who have played a role in my life, right? Like my mom, I love my mom, and I believe, you know, that she did the best that she could with the knowledge that she had. She did the best that she could um, from the different influences that she had in her life growing up herself. And so a lot of times, when I look back at a lot of things that I went through in the household with my mom, um, it was out of ignorance. You know, I was her first child, and there's no manual. Especially when it comes to if you're not what we call like those of that are followers of the way. Um, and so she just had a lot of influence from her older sisters, her older sister, her mom, her grandmother, which was my great grandmother, which raised me. She just had a lot of she had a lot of issues. And there's still some, me and my mom, even to this day, we don't have a relationship. It's very unfortunate, but I've come to terms with it. I'm okay with it because another thing that I've learned as I've matured, that we don't choose who our relatives are, but we can choose who family is. And I've been so blessed, that God has been mindful of me to bring other individuals in my life, that came and walked alongside me, that encouraged me, that uplifted me, that's still in my life to this day. And so, I just want to let you guys know too that, this is going to be very like informal. Me just having these conversations about, well, it's really dialogue because I'm the only person talking. Unless, I have some feedback in the comments, but really it's just me having a conversation, me just talking to the other side of the screen. Um, so just to jump back into it, you know, I was raised in the house with my mom and my stepdad. Um, for a long time, you know, I didn't really understand what was happening, but my stepdad was there. Like he came along when I was 2 years old. And I think that they tried their best to not come off as like I wasn't his biological child. But when my sister came along, so many years later, all those things changed. And and I was so naive. I was just a kid. So a lot of that stuff, I didn't even really realize what was happening until, really recently. I was doing some self-reflection, just meditating, and a lot of things, God uncovered like my eyes to see. Like he it's like he unlocked parts of my brain, or my memory or my understanding. I'll say that he unlocked um understanding for me to see that, everything that was happening in my household, it has molded me and shaped me into the person I am. um Even though I went through a lot, but it also taught me what not to do with my kids. It taught me, how to address situations where it didn't include abuse, or it didn't include manipulation. It didn't um include, you know jealousy. Like it was just a lot of stuff that God allowed me to understand now that I'm older, that I didn't understand then. And I'm so grateful to be able to even have this platform, even have this conversation, because like I said, I've had conversations with people who, just feel like I need to tell my testimony. And it's just my way of giving back. I don't look at myself as an influencer. I don't look at myself as somebody who has all the answers. I'm just going to tell my story, and I just pray that it blesses someone. It allows somebody to know that they're not the only person who's endured abuse, who's endured manipulation, who's you know and endure just a lot of heartache, upset, rejection, just all of that, and then still be able to move forward and live life, in abundance, with a husband, with their children, and be able to function normally in a community of people who love them. Like you like I just want to be that voice, and I just pray that God uses me in that way. So um you know I came from a long line of abuse. Like my abuse started when I wasn't even a teenager yet, and it was with someone who was supposed to protect me. It was supposed to be with someone who I looked up to, who I admired. And um it was very unfortunate because, as the abuse was taking place, like the things that were like told to me, like, like you had to keep it a secret, and you couldn't tell anybody because you would get in trouble. So not only was I the victim, but it was I was also the person who would get in trouble if they said anything about it. And being that I was so young and naive and not knowing any better, I held that in for a very, very long time. And even when I decided to tell someone about it when I got older, you know, I I know they believed me, but they didn't respond. It was more like swept up under the rug. And so this person that took advantage of me, that molested me sexually, was my brother, was my older brother. And you know when when he did that, like, I I just started to, like, I became promiscuous. Like I didn't have my biological father, my stepfather in the home. Him and my mom had their perfect little child. And so I didn't really have that male influence. So I started looking for love in the wrong places. And again, young, naive, not knowing any better, you know, me working at a popular food chain, food grocery store. There was an older man that took interest in me, and I'm 15 years old at this time. And he took interest in me, and he told me I was beautiful. He told me all those whispered sweet nothings in my ear. And this individual uh, invited me back to his place. I'm 15, guys. Keep this in mind. I'm 15 years old. This is a older man. This man is grown. Okay, like when we say grown, we're talking about somebody that's 21 plus. And he invites me back to his home. And when I get there, the house is full of other men, and you can guess what happened next. I was taken advantage of by multiple men, um, in ways that I'm not going to get into every detail on this very first live, but it's leading somewhere where I want to end this video. After all this happened, this man took me and dropped me off in an abandoned parking lot. And what happened next is the reason why promiscuity set in. At this point, I call my mom. I'm hysterical. Like, I remember this like it was yesterday. I'm hysterical. I called her. I told her, I told her what had happened. She came with the police, right? And I've watched, like, SVU is like one of my favorite sitcoms. Like, it's one of my favorite sitcoms because I can identify with it. Um, but what I learned later in life, or where God gave me an understanding, like released my understanding, was that at that time, my mom was supposed to take me to the hospital so I could get a rape kit done. That never happened, and I'm going to tell you why that never happened. The police told her that that these individuals, the, what do you call it, the offender always returns to the scene of the crime, right? So these men found, like, came up with this story. All their stories was the same. Mine was the only one that was different. And so my mom never took me to the hospital to get a rape kit done. And not only did she never take me to get it done, she said that it was my fault and I wanted it. And so from that point on, like something in my mind was like this doesn't make sense. So not only has my innocence been taken from a blood relative, it's been taken from multiple men. And at this point, I said, well, since they're going to take it, I'm just going to give it to them. I'm just going to be this promiscuous person, or at this time, I didn't even know what promiscuity meant. I just knew that the boys in school and those that I knew, it was more like a hoe. I'm gonna be very transparent with this thing because I believe it's necessary. Um, and so I never, like, really, like, had girlfriends like that. I flocked towards the men. I always flocked towards the boys at school. I was very cool with the boys. I hung out with the boys. I felt like I couldn't trust girls because of what my mom told me. Like, if for years I did not fool with females in that capacity. Um, I know a lot of people, like I know a lot of people who still have high school friends that are females. I'm talking about women. They still have high school female friends, like they went to college together. They grew like they're still knit tight. I could not forge those relationships because I didn't know who I was. My mom told me who I was, which was a hoe. I'm not gonna say a whore. I'm gonna say a hoe because that's what she called me. And so I didn't trust women because I couldn't trust my mom. So, with all that being said, again, I'm hanging out with the boys, not necessarily having like sexual relations with them, but I just felt like I was one of the boys, and that caused issues with other girls, which was another reason why I didn't have a lot of female friends. They always thought I was after their boyfriend or whatever. No, I was just the cool one. I just wanted to kick it. Like I don't want the drama that came along with having female friends. And so, this kind of just kept going for as long as I could remember. And when I turned 19, I had my first child, my oldest, and this was by a one night stand. I'm just like, it just is what it is. And she's old enough, and I've had this conversation with her, so she understands exactly, what happened. And, you know, I don't regret the decision that I made by having her. At 19. I had graduated from high school, and like, believe it or not, I graduated at the top of my class. Like, after going through all of that, like getting it, I got into fights. I like, it was just a lot. Now, dealing not only just dealing with school life, but I'm also dealing with home life, not really understanding what was happening because, again, like, that was my stepfather. That wasn't my biological father. And a lot of things that was happening in the house I didn't understand until I got older. It was also abuse. Like, just being beat. Like, I never once saw my sister get a whipping. Like, that is crazy. But it's all good because all things work to the good. I believe that all things work for our good. All things, even if it's like the darkest place, I believe that all things work for our good. And so, not only am I dealing with verbal and physical abuse in the home that I was brought up in, not really like putting two and two together, I'm also dealing with, rejection in school. I'm also dealing with, both sides, my home and my school, like looking at me as I'm like the hoe. Like, and so I'm just really dealing with that. And this is all up until the age of 19, but it didn't end there. Um, it just kept going. It just kept going. And because I didn't have like friends like that in school when I became of age, when I was old enough, I went to go live with my grandmother because, and this is my great grandmother. I miss her so much. I miss her so much. Um, I miss her. But she passed in this past December. Um, and I'm still dealing with that. I'm still dealing with that. Like that, I believe that she is the only one on my mother's side of the family that actually cared about me and loved me, and she never judged me. Never, ever. She always just prayed for me and always said that her prayer was that I would use my voice for the Lord. And when I say use my voice for the Lord, I always thought that she meant singing. I always thought that because I sing. Like, I've been singing since I was old enough to walk. Like, I've been singing. That's one of the talents that God gave me. But when I think about it, using my voice for the Lord is share my testimony, because that is the way that we overcome. We overcome by our word, the word of our testimony, and by the blood of the Lamb. And so, that's all clicking now. Like my story, I know I kind of gave you guys like a heavy load with this reintroduction part 2, but I'm going to go oh goodness, hey Bianca. Yeah, um yeah, he's faithful. He's faithful. That's what I can say, is he's faithful. And so I just want to end this particular session by telling you guys that even with that heavy load that I just like expressed and communicated to you all, that's not even the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. And so for now, just know that it didn't matter that I came from a broken home, from abuse, from molestation, from all of that. I'm here now to talk to you guys about it. And so until next time, um, this is my story, and I'll see you guys next time, and hopefully for a little bit longer. Thank you guys for chiming in. I love you, and see you next time. Bye.